Hey, what's up? It's Nathan here with thebtccourse.com, and in this video, we're going to answer the question, how do you know there won't be more than 21 million Bitcoin? So this is a fair question for somebody that's new to Bitcoin to ask. So there's a couple parts to this question and answer. So first, I know there will only be 21 million Bitcoin because of the code. So this code comes straight from Bitcoin Core. So this, of course, Bitcoin code is open source. So you can see the entire code if you want to, if you can understand what you're looking at. But this little segment right here tells me that there's only going to ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Now, this video over here explains this snippet of code. So if you want to get more details than I'm showing you here, link in the description down below. It's only 6 minutes and 46 seconds, and he does a great job explaining it. But basically, every block that's mined runs through this code, and based on the block height and halving interval parameter, which is 210,000 blocks, the subsidy is then calculated and issued. So we can see right here, so we get the height of the blockchain, and then the constant, which is the consensus parameters of the 210,000 blocks. And you can kind of make some sense of this code even though you don't know what you're looking at. So right here it says force block reward to 0 when right shift is undefined. So basically when there's been enough halvings, well then the block reward goes away. And we'll talk about halvings in just a second here. But also the subsidy is cut in half every 210,000 blocks, which will occur approximately every 4 years. So it's all right here in the code. And again, check out that other video if you want more details. But the subsidy, or the block reward, is how new Bitcoin is mined, i.e. comes into existence, right? We know there's going to be 21 million Bitcoin at the end of it, and new Bitcoin hits the market every time a new block is mined as part of the mining reward or subsidy. So given the above snippet of code, you know the subsidy will be 50 Bitcoins for the first 210,000 blocks, halved, so that's a halvening, so the block reward is what halves every 210,000 blocks, or about every 4 years. The block reward halves, so we start with 50 Bitcoin, then we drop down to 25 Bitcoin for the next 210,000 blocks, halve to 12.5 Bitcoins for the next 210,000 blocks, all the way down to 0.000000001 Bitcoins for the final halving before the subsidy drops to 0 and all 21 million blocks are mined. So here's a block subsidy table right here. And of course, link in the description down below. But you can see how it started. So block height was 0. So we started with a block subsidy of 50 Bitcoin. So there we go, 50. And that started on January 3rd, 2009 when Bitcoin launched. And then we can see the halving date right here of November 28th, 2012. It dropped down to 25, then 12.5, and then 6.25 is what we're at right now. And then probably in about April of 2024, we'll drop down to 3.125 Bitcoin. Will be rewarded to the miner that mines the block. And then, of course, all the way down here to about the year 2140, that's when we won't have any more block reward, and the last Bitcoin will be issued. So that's how we get to that 21 million Bitcoin number. So if we come down here, so, okay, Bitcoin's monetary policy is hard-coded into Bitcoin Core, but it's just code. So that can be changed, right? I mean, after all, code is written by humans, so if a human wants to go ahead and increase the number of Bitcoin, couldn't they just go ahead and do that? Well, no one can change it because Bitcoin is truly decentralized. So there's basically 3 parties that partake in Bitcoin. So we have the developers, and they're of course writing the code. We have the miners that mine the blocks, i.e. they organize the transactions into groupings called blocks based on free market economics, so whoever is paying the highest fee, and add the blocks to the blockchain, so they're out there building the blockchain. And then the node operators confirm the rules are being followed, i.e. decide what the rules are. Say, for example, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, and the node operators are the people. And there's tens of thousands of node operators out there. I, in fact, have 2 Bitcoin nodes myself. And I get to choose what rules I want to go ahead and follow. And to change any rule, you need consensus across all parties. So, of course, you need the developers to write the code, you need the miners to agree to mine the blocks with that new rule set, and then you need the node operators to confirm that the rules are being followed. So you need all 3 groups of people in order to change the code. Now, they did try and change the code once before for something a little simpler than monetary policy, and that was block size. And this is where the developers and miners wanted to increase the size of a block so it could hold more transactions. However, this change was essentially vetoed by the node operators, who chose to keep smaller blocks and therefore a smaller size blockchain that could be more easily decentralized. So of course, if we had bigger blocks with more transactions, the actual size, gigabyte size of the blockchain would be much greater because there'd be a lot more transactions stored on the blockchain. And so anyway, if you're interested in learning more about the block size wars, I recommend checking out this video right here. It's a little long at 21 minutes, but it does a really great job of explaining the history behind the block size wars, who was part of it, why they wanted to change the block size, why it didn't work out, and so on. So definitely check that out if you're interested. So why would it be so hard to gain consensus to change the number of Bitcoin? Well, one of the top 3 pillars of Bitcoin is its monetary policy. That 21 million Bitcoin is a natural law on par with the law of gravity. There's no changing it, just like you can't change the law of gravity. So if it changes, then the entire system goes out the window. This is why we're buying Bitcoin, because it's truly decentralized, 21 million, self-sovereignty, etc. So why would anyone invested in Bitcoin want to throw the entire system out the window? The incentives don't make sense for anybody to increase the number of Bitcoin. I don't want the number of Bitcoin to increase. The miners don't. The programmers or developers don't want to increase the number because they're probably invested in Bitcoin as well. So yeah, there's zero incentive to change the number of Bitcoins across any party, much less all 3 parties. So no one wants to dilute their share of Bitcoin. So let's say someone has 1 Bitcoin. They know they hold 1 out of 21 million of all Bitcoin. So if that number of Bitcoin doubled to 42 million, well, their percent holdings were decreased by 50%. So no one would want to dilute their share of Bitcoin. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So between the code, telling us that there will only ever be 21 million, the consensus to change the code, and incentives, I don't see Bitcoin's monetary policy ever changing. It just does not make sense on any magnitude or front. And if you want more details, you can check out these Bitcoin resources here at thebtccourse.com. So it is a completely free website with lots of video training and blog posts on orange pilling yourself, Bitcoin basics, how and where to buy Bitcoin, software wallets, hardware wallets, multi-sig wallets, the Lightning Network, miscellaneous Bitcoin tutorials, and Nostr. So of course, links are in the description down below, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.